I'm Lynn. Recently, I got married to my husband, Scott, and now I have a sister-in-law named Abigail, but I just got this weird call from her. Lynn, you listening? I am, but I didn't quite catch that. Okay, I'll say it again. Your cruiser? I crashed it into an iceberg. Yeah, still doesn't make sense. Needless to say, there's a lot to unpack here. First off, I don't own a cruiser. And what's this about an iceberg? You wouldn't see icebergs unless you're near the Arctic or Antarctic. We're in Los Angeles, so I doubt there's an iceberg nearby. But knowing Abigail, she probably doesn't realize that. She's a bit different in many ways. She's either confused about something or trying to tease me, one of the two. Thinking this, I asked Abigail again. Did you really crash into an iceberg? Yeah, I intentionally hit the iceberg and sank it. Abigail answered, laughing. Annoyed by her tone, I asked her a bit more sternly. Can you explain a bit more? Len, you're so silly. Fine, I'll explain. Abigail started her explanation, still laughing. Her story began when I visited Scott's family home. The reason for going to Scott's place was simple. We had a family meeting. Naturally, Abigail was there too. As soon as she saw me, she said, Wow, you look kinda Japanese. My grandma's Japanese. My grandma is Japanese, and my grandpa is American. Their daughter, my mom, married an American, my dad, and they had me and my brother. Later, when I was in upper elementary school, we moved to Birmingham, Alabama, due to my father's job. My appearance is a bit different from typical Americans, more East Asian, like Japanese. I've been teased about it a few times, so I was a bit on guard, thinking Abigail might do the same. But Abigail just said, Really? That's so cool. You're really cute. She complimented me like that. In a moment, I felt relieved. What if they hadn't accepted me? That's what I had been worrying about. Thank you. Looking forward to getting along. Sure thing. That's how I talked with Abigail, and then Victoria, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, joined the conversation. Lynn, you lived in Los Angeles, right? Do you still have a house there? The house we lived in is occupied by someone else now, but we do have relatives' homes there. Oh, I see. But as long as you have relatives' homes there, no need to worry. Victoria seemed oddly pleased. Then Abigail chimed in. That's what I was thinking too. I had a bad feeling about this, but an opportunity to travel with Victoria and her family isn't likely to come up often. So I didn't make much of it and let the conversation flow. However, Victoria and Abigail kept asking odd questions afterwards. About the kind of house I lived in Los Angeles, the kind of car I drove. Finally, they even asked about my relatives' homes in Los Angeles. I replied that I lived in a house with a pool and my uncle lives by a river. Hearing this, Victoria and her group laughed maliciously. That's when I realized they were planning to use my relatives to take a trip to the West Coast. Oh no. They're planning to take full advantage of me. But it's hard to complain to people you just met. And complaining might jeopardize their acceptance of the marriage. After much thought, I decided to bear it for now. After all, the chance to go to the West Coast wasn't immediate. By the time it came around, we'd probably be in a position to have a proper discussion. For the moment, I decided not to touch on the subject. Somehow I managed to get through the introductions. At the end, Abigail asked for my contact information, which I regretfully shared. That was a big mistake. After that, she started contacting me more frequently. At first, it was about once a week, so I just went along with it or declined casually. But gradually, she began to reach out more often. It became a hassle, and I started making convenient excuses like being at work or driving. Once Scott and I filed our marriage application, Abigail became completely unreserved. I tried to accommodate her a few times, but twice or thrice a week was just too much. And yet today she called again saying, Hey Lynn, want to hang out? It's already 8 p.m. I have work tomorrow. What? You can't make it work, right? No, I can't. Abigail finished high school and works part-time. She probably has more free time, but I'm a full-time employee. I work weekdays from Monday till evening, and my only days off are the weekends and the holidays. Now that I'm married, I have household responsibilities too. I just don't have the leisure to accommodate Abigail. Sorry, I have a meeting early tomorrow morning. Stingy, even though you're rich. With those words, the call ended. Since then, I haven't heard from Abigail. What's this about being rich? I work full-time, but it's not like I earn a high salary. I couldn't make sense of it. The next day, I got a call from Victoria. Len, want to go shopping together? I'm pretty busy with work, I replied nonchalantly. Then Victoria said something strange. You're rich, right, Len? I wanted to consult you about some brands I'm interested in. Wait, did I just hear something odd? Something about being rich? Wondering if I misheard, I asked Victoria to clarify. Sorry, did you just say something about being rich? Yes, I did. What about it? I'm not rich. What? But you lived in Los Angeles, right? Victoria said, as if it were the most natural thing. Does living in Los Angeles automatically make one rich? If that logic holds, does it mean all Los Angeles residents are wealthy? All these thoughts were swirling in my head. As I sighed, Victoria asked, What's wrong? Just a misunderstanding. I'm not rich. What? Even though you lived in a house with a pool? That's common in California. Oh, really? Yes. Sorry, I must have misunderstood. With those words, Victoria abruptly hung up. I was left puzzled. What was that all about? No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't find an answer. When I discussed this with Scott, he talked to Victoria and Abigail for me. According to Scott, here's what happened. Learning that I lived in Los Angeles, and specifically in a house with a pool, they assumed it must be in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills means wealth, so they concluded I must be wealthy. Indeed, if one lives in Beverly Hills, it's not unreasonable to think they might be well off. But I just lived in Los Angeles, not Beverly Hills. So Victoria and her group's assumption were flawed. But they believed what they thought, hence the probing about my house. I did find it odd when they asked me those questions, but I couldn't lie. So I told the truth, which unfortunately fed their misconceptions. A house with a pool might be common in California, but it's almost unheard of here in Birmingham. It seems Victoria and her group misunderstood and thought I was wealthy. They probably thought being rich means they could benefit from my marriage. They could expect money gifts from me. Anyway, if I cozy up to them, something good might come of it. That seems to be what they were thinking. That's why they were contacting me so often. Eventually, Scott clarified the misunderstanding, but Victoria and her group seemed to grumble about it. Well, if I had been a rich girl, maybe we could have gone on trips or partied every night. I can understand their disappointment when all that became impossible. But still, it was good that the misunderstanding was cleared up. Sometime later, when I went to discuss the wedding plans with Victoria's family, if the misunderstanding had persisted, Victoria would have wanted a lavish wedding. But she actually said to me, "What kind of wedding are you planning? You're not going for something too extravagant, right?" "Yeah, I think a small family-only affair would be nice." "Right. You have to be mindful of expenses now." She seemed concerned, which was nice. However, Abigail still seemed to have her doubts about me. She didn't participate much in the wedding discussion, which was a bit disappointing. But even without Abigail's input, our wedding was still happening. A year later, we managed to have a lovely wedding. On the wedding day, my parents, who live in Birmingham, managed to make it in time for the ceremony. But my grandparents from Los Angeles couldn't come due to the difficulty of travel. Instead, my Uncle Taylor, my mother's brother, came. He said he would take pictures to show to my grandparents. As I was waiting in the dressing room a few hours before the ceremony, Taylor came to see me. Lynn, how are you doing? Taylor's company deals with boat rentals, handling cruisers and pleasure boats, popular among young Americans. He showed me a photo saying, "Look at this, I bought it." It was a cruiser in the photo, clearly expensive at a glance. How much? This much. Taylor typed a number on his phone. $3 million? What? It seemed he didn't catch what I said. Taylor has some hearing issues due to an accident in his youth, and speaking a bit louder helps him understand better. As I was marveling at how he could afford such a sum, Taylor showed me another photo. Lynn, this is a wedding present for you. For me? It was a picture of a pleasure boat. According to Taylor, his company had recently replaced some boats. He had kept one of them aside for me. It was currently at his riverside home, and I could use it when I visited. Thank you. While I was talking about this, Abigail entered the dressing room. What's this? What did you get? Abigail had a sly smile on her face. Seems like she was eavesdropping outside the dressing room. If I tell Abigail about the pleasure boat, she'll definitely insist on being taken for a ride, so I'd rather not tell her. But it seems she already overheard, so it might be hard to hide it. Reluctantly, I said, Taylor gave me a boat. A boat? Who just gives away a boat like that? It's a second-hand boat from Taylor's company. Instead of disposing of it, he gave it to me. Huh, interesting. Abigail didn't seem very interested. In a way, that was a relief. After Taylor left the room, I moved in front of the mirror to do my makeup. Glancing through my mirror, I noticed Abigail looking at the photo Taylor had brought. Maybe she's more interested than she lets on. As I was thinking this, Abigail had disappeared. Soon after, the wedding was over. On the way back in the car, Victoria said to me, Lynn, did you inform Grandma about your marriage? Of course I did. I even sent her photos of my wedding dress. That's good, but don't you think it would be better to visit her? As I was fearing this turn of events, Victoria continued. I'd like to greet your grandpa and grandma too, but they're in Los Angeles. That's why I was thinking, why don't we combine it with a family trip to the West Coast? It seems Victoria hadn't given up on the trip idea. It was a hard proposition to refuse. As I was thinking about how to decline, Victoria said, Actually, I talked to Taylor. What? With Taylor? Yes, and he said he'd love for us to visit. Did Taylor catch that in all the noise? Huh? That's something you overcome with willpower. I'm pretty sure Taylor didn't get it. So I refused, not wanting to inconvenience Taylor. Then Victoria frowned suddenly. Oh, poor Grandpa and Grandma. Couldn't attend the wedding, can't see their grandchild. Please don't say it like that. Don't you want to see them? I do, but... See, then let's go. In the end, I couldn't refuse. Pushed by Victoria, we decided to go to the West Coast for our honeymoon. But I wasn't unhappy about it. I would get to see Grandpa and Grandma after a long time, and we could play in the river near Taylor's house. There's also the pleasure boat, so it's sure to be fun. Might as well enjoy it to the fullest. With that mindset, I decided to go have a good time. A few months after the wedding, we used our summer vacation to travel to the West Coast. When I explained the situation to Taylor, he happily agreed to host us. So Scott, Victoria, Abigail, and I headed to Taylor's house in Los Angeles. Father-in-law couldn't join due to work commitments. Still, it was our first family trip since getting married. I wanted to use this opportunity to bond with Victoria and Abigail. That was my plan. The day we arrived was spent joyfully reuniting with Grandpa and Grandma and introducing Scott to them. I also introduced Victoria and Abigail, and we all enjoyed a family party. Abigail, with her inherent cheerfulness, quickly got along with Taylor's family. Victoria seemed to be having fun too, and we felt a step closer to being a real family. That's what I thought. The next day, my brother Kevin, who lives alone in San Francisco, came to visit late in the morning.
Lynn.
Kevin, how's school? For context, Kevin is a college student.
It's the weekend, right? I'm off, so I came to say hello.
I'll introduce you to Scott and the others. We talked, but I couldn't find Victoria and Abigail anywhere. Scott, who was helping my aunt, was there, but not Victoria and her group. Scott, where are Victoria and the others?
I don't know.
Scott shrugged. That's when I suddenly got a call from Abigail. Hello, Len? Abigail, where are you? My brother just arrived. Before I could finish, Abigail burst into laughter. You're so laid back, Len. What's going on, Abigail? Do you know where we are? I was just looking for you. Where are you? That's a secret. Just wanted to tell you something. Tell me what? Your cruiser. I deliberately crashed it into an iceberg and sank it. Abigail laughed loudly. That was the extent of what Abigail explained over the phone. So that's what happened. Got it? I understood the story, but what about my cruiser? Thinking it over, I remembered something. From the wedding day, Taylor had given me a pleasure boat. That time, Abigail was eavesdropping on our conversation. She saw the photo of the cruiser and heard me talking about getting a boat, so she might have been confused. Then I tried clarifying. You know, if it's my boat, it's at my house. The pleasure boat I received is at Taylor's house. I'm not sure of it since I glanced at it. No, it's different. Your cruiser sank right in front of me. It's hard to say, but I don't own a cruiser. What? There was a photo. You were talking about the boat being a gift. The boat I received was the pleasure boat. Pleasure what? Right, Abigail is a bit different. She wouldn't know the difference between a pleasure boat and a cruiser. A pleasure boat is for fun, and a cruiser is for staying overnight. What do you mean? It means the cruiser you're talking about sinking isn't mine. What? Whose cruiser is it then? That's what I wanted to know. But from her talk about the photo, it's probably Taylor's cruiser. As I was thinking this, I heard Taylor screaming over the phone, shouting things like, "What have you done?" and "What's going on?" Then I realized Abigail mistake it for my cruiser and had sunk Taylor's $3 million cruiser. Abigail, don't move. Why? What's wrong? This is Los Angeles, not some rural area like Alabama. Sinking a boat and running away is a big deal here. Really? Yes, police here deal with serious crimes. They're not like the sheriffs in Alabama. You understand? Oh no! I could hear Abigail crying. She seemed to be pleading with Victoria nearby. Mom, help me! I don't know, Abigail. You did it on your own. Help me! I just wanted to be on the cruiser. It seemed like they were passing the blame to each other. Well, as long as they stay put, that's fine. I quickly contacted Scott and headed to the marina where Taylor's cruiser was. The marina was a few minutes' drive away. Arriving at the scene, several police officers were already there. I talked to a stunned Taylor. He told me this. Early in the morning, Abigail and Victoria had asked them to go on the cruiser, but their strong Alabama accent made their English hard to understand. Taylor thought that's what they wanted from their difficult-to-understand English. Meanwhile, I asked Abigail for her side of the story, and she said, I kept telling Taylor to let me on Len's cruiser. You actually said that? He didn't quite understand me. Well, I see. So I kept repeating Len's cruiser to Taylor. I think I get what she's trying to say, but I doubt that would get the message across. So I checked with Taylor about what he heard. He said, Lisa Cruiser. Now that I think about it, the pronunciation isn't too far off. And with Abigail's strong Alabama accent, it's not surprising it was misheard. But leasing implies long-term rental. Normally, one would refuse such a request. But Taylor had realized last night that Abigail was a bit unusual. She kept repeating, Lisa Cruiser. Taylor, out of kindness, thought she wanted to borrow a cruiser. As a result, he let Abigail onto his own cruiser, and she misunderstood it as mine. That seems to be what happened. But why did you want to sink my cruiser? I thought you lied about not being rich, getting cruisers and stuff. She thought I was actually rich enough to receive a cruiser, but was hiding it. Abigail wanted to get back at me for lying. Even if it was out of jealousy or feeling lied to, sinking a cruiser is too extreme. But I still had questions, so I asked her, "How did you manage to operate the cruiser? You don't have a boating license, do you?" "I just kind of figured it out by watching Taylor." "So you guessed?" "Yeah, I fiddled around and it started moving. And then I couldn't stop it, crashed into the dock, and it started sinking. So I thought I might as well sink it." According to Abigail, her plan was just to cause a little trouble, but the cruiser moved more easily than expected and hit the dock. It then started sinking, and she panicked. But her coming to me with this was infuriating. Yet, if left alone, it would become a huge problem, and she didn't think to call the police in her panic. How could she convey the situation to me and give me a scare? Abigail thought of this. There was a movie about a ship sinking after hitting an iceberg. She figured she could use that as a reference, saying it hit an iceberg would surely cause panic. Besides, that movie was a Hollywood film. Hollywood is in Los Angeles, so they couldn't have filmed it without nearby icebergs. Therefore, she assumed there must be icebergs nearby. With this bizarre and whimsical reasoning, Abigail lied about hitting an iceberg and sinking. Moreover, she thought if she said such a thing, I would be worried about her safety. Then she expected me to rush over in a panic. Seeing my panicked state would be enough revenge for her. I understood why she lied about hitting an iceberg, but her reasoning was ludicrously flawed. Afterwards, both Abigail and Victoria got a scolding from Scott. Fortunately, there was no damage to other boats, so paying for the repairs settled the matter. "And after all that, why do I have to work for a river cleaning company?" Abigail cried in Birmingham. "It's obvious. The repair costs were substantial." "But there are other jobs." "Well, you wanted to be on a boat, right? This river cleaning company lets you do just that." "I wanted to be on a cruiser, not just any boat." In the end, Abigail was left crying while working for the river cleaning company, picking up trash from the boat. It was tough work, but ideal for her who wanted to be on a boat. For me, there was a slight upside. Actually, Victoria started working too, for Abigail's sake. This meant she stopped contacting me as much. Of course, I want to get along with them. But for now, it's important they work and earn money, especially for Taylor's sake. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble. After all, I haven't even been on that $3 million cruiser yet.
Are you all familiar with a disease called facial arteriovenous malformation? I was born with this condition, causing a large bump to form at the center of my face. This is a congenital disease where arteries and veins, which normally have different roles, somehow become connected, allowing blood to flow between them and resulting in a large blood clot in that area. From a young age, I underwent numerous surgeries, each one causing further distortion of my face. And during my school years, particularly in elementary school, I was terribly teased by the boys in my class. This facial disorder, impossible to hide no matter how hard I tried, led to severe self-consciousness. I honestly thought I would end my life without ever experiencing love or marriage, believing there would be no one who could love someone with such an ugly appearance. I seriously thought so, at least until I met him. I, Sophia, was a hopelessly negative person, lacking self-confidence, and recognized by others as such. Although I was somewhat influenced by what people said about my disease, the existence of my family, especially my sister, was what really exasperated my complex. You see, my sister Mia has beautiful double-fold eyelids, long lashes, a perfectly shaped nose. She's as pretty as a doll and is often complimented. My parents were extremely proud of her and frequently gifted her new clothes, shoes, and hair accessories. In contrast, my ugliness, a product of my disease, was treated as if I didn't exist. They'd say, "It'd be pitiful for Mia to be seen as siblings with such an ugly sister." For this reason, my parents did not want me to spend much time with my sister. However, Mia didn't care about my disease at all. She treated me normally, even giving me the toys and hair accessories she'd received, and defending me against those who made comments about my face. She was always there for me. While I love and cherish her for being such a saving grace in my life, my parents' love was always directed at her. They showed no interest in time. And for instance, even if Mia got grades in the 70s, they would compliment her. "Getting this high is incredible! Our Mia is not only pretty, but also good at studying. We're truly proud of her." But no matter how well I did on a test, they would always dismiss it with, "You know, being good at studying isn't enough to get you through life. In this world, even if you're not very smart, you can get by if you're attractive and pleasant. Since you're not good looking, I think you're going to have a hard life." When I found a pretty dress I liked, they'd say, "It might look good on Mia, but it wouldn't suit your face. You'll just become a laughing stock, so you better not wear it." When I showed interest in makeup and bought a magazine with my own allowance, they'd tell me, "Makeup can't cover up to your level. It's a waste of time." They kept comparing me to Mia, and every single thing I did was denied, and I lost confidence, more and more. Mia often protested against my parents' attitude towards me, but that just made things worse. That's when I realized there really is no place for me in this family. And it's not like I had a place at school either. I was teased by the boys in my class with nicknames like Monster or Face Weapon, and there were times when I was avoided because people said they might catch my disease if they touched me. Even in middle school, although the treatment wasn't as harsh, there were still boys who would grimace just by me being next to them. And while no one would say anything to me directly, I would often hear whispers about me. But what hurt the most was being made the subject of a punishment game. There used to be a game where the person who lost had to confess their feelings to someone in the class, and I was often the target of that punishment game. Of course, I knew they were only confessing because they had lost a game, so I politely declined. But then they'd go around saying, "I got rejected by that monster girl!" And I was yelled at by one of the boys I had turned down, saying, "Don't get all high and mighty just because it's a punishment game, ugly." At the time, it seemed so selfish and unfair to me, but I was convinced that my face was a sin. I thought I was causing discomfort to others just by being there. I was filled with guilt. During my years in elementary and middle school, I had no good memories of boys at all. But there was once, just once, when I fell in love with a boy in my class. This happened in my sophomore year of high school. A boy from my class, whom I happened to be seated with after the classes were shuffled, would treat me like any other person, without making fun of or avoiding my face. He would greet me with a good morning every day as our seats were adjacent. I knew full well that he didn't have any feelings for me, but his single greeting brought me so much joy in the face of constant ridicule and avoidance that I naturally began to like him. However, I didn't really want to date him or anything like that. I just wanted this pleasant time to last as long as it could. But day by day, I felt more and more that I liked the boy, and after worrying about what to do, I asked my sister for advice, and she said, "I think it's a good idea to just tell him how you feel." After much deliberation, I decided to tell him how I felt. So I left a letter expressing my feelings in his desk. A few days later, I noticed something strange about the atmosphere in the class when I arrived at school. It was as if everyone was murmuring and glancing in my direction. As I was wondering what was going on, the boy, who had arrived at school before me, approached me and asked, "Hey, did you put this letter in my desk?" I responded by silently nodding, my gaze fixed to the ground. In that moment, I heard a sound above my head as if something was tearing, and the next moment, pieces of my torn letter were falling into my sight. It's troublesome when something like this happens. What are you going to do if strange rumors start spreading? You fell in love just because I greeted you out of politeness? How inexperienced in love are you? I didn't mean anything by it. If I gave you the wrong impression, I'm sorry. He said this, and for some reason, the class erupted in applause and cheers. And I heard comments like, "Wow, you've got guts!" And "That's a bit sad, isn't it?" After that, my memory is a blur, and the next thing I knew, I was at home. But I don't remember anything about the journey. All I can remember is the feeling of guilt and despair. After that incident, I couldn't bring myself to go to school anymore, and I stopped attending. When my parents heard about what happened, instead of being on my side, they said, "His reaction was justified. You caused trouble, so you should apologize." Eventually, they began to scold me for not going to school for such a trivial reason, and tried to force me to go, but I just couldn't get myself to move. In the end, I dropped out of high school and became a recluse. After I became a shut-in, my older sister was worried and repeatedly tried to communicate with me. In contrast, our parents would either verbally abuse me in front of my room every morning or forcefully enter my room to berate me directly. They'd hurl insults such as, "We never should have had you," or "You're such a disgrace," causing me to despair every day, wondering why I even existed. Apparently, my sister noticed my situation and consulted our grandparents on our mother's side. The following day, they came to hear my story, and after learning about the events at school and our parents' subsequent reactions, they were furious. They scolded our parents, saying, "We will take care of her," and came to my rescue. My grandparents did not abandon me, even though I was in a state of despair. They faced me directly, and with their support, along with my sisters, I gradually started to recover. Although it was only my desire to end my life that had quieted down. I was unable to erase my fear and mistrust towards the opposite sex, no matter how hard I tried. However, my grandfather would always encourage me, saying, "There will be a time when you can be happy in any way without having to get married. We just want you to be happy in any way you want to live. So forget about the guy who said terrible things to you. It's a waste of time to keep remembering such a person. We may not have much time left, but you still have many futures ahead of you." My grandmother also always reassured me, saying that as long as I was happy, that was all that mattered. She would often compliment me, saying things like, "Your skin is so glowing, it makes me jealous," or "Your eyes are as beautiful as jewels." My sister would also visit our grandparents' house and spend time chatting with me. We'd read magazines together, discuss cute cosmetics, and generally enjoy our time. After living like this for about 3 years, I began to feel motivated to do something. I decided to start studying again to get my high school equivalency diploma, which I eventually acquired. Afterwards, I started looking for work I could do from home, and slowly started to earn income. The income was less than what others made working outside, but considering the days when I had shut myself in and was in a state of despair, I felt that I had grown quite a bit. However, I was still scared of comments about my appearance, so I couldn't go outside. This was how I was living at my grandparents' house, when my parents suddenly showed up one day. They hadn't even bothered to make a single phone call since I moved to my grandparents' house. But they stormed in, saying they had something to discuss with me. They announced, "There's a marriage proposal for you. The prospective groom is the son of a medical foundation representative. Apparently, he also has some issues and has a hard time finding a spouse. So the focus has now turned to you. But isn't this great? He's rich and he's willing to take someone like you, who's been a burden on society." I was taken aback by this sudden turn of events, but my grandparents stepped in to help. They argued that it was unreasonable to make decisions without considering my feelings. My father, who seemed to speak convincingly, responded, "This might be the last chance for her. She's had so many painful experiences because of her appearance. Why not consider this as a chance for happiness?" The face of the man in the marriage document was mostly hidden by his bangs and wasn't clear, but I could make out his plump physique and the contours of his face. I understood instantly that he was probably also being forced into marriage to get rid of some problem. Or maybe he was an extreme eccentric who liked unusual things. But even if I rejected the proposal here, it seemed like the negotiations with the other family were already in progress. They seemed like a wealthy family, and my parents would undoubtedly try to force me into the marriage. If I ran away from this, it could potentially have negative repercussions on my grandparents. For the sake of my grandparents who have protected me from that day until now, I made up my mind. I understand. I will accept this proposal. Upon hearing these words, my grandparents' eyes widened. They embraced me and tried to persuade me numerous times. You don't have to go along with such a ridiculous proposition. However, I told them through tears, Grandma, Grandpa, until that day, I had lost all hope in life. But because you were by my side, I was able to enjoy living until now. I can't thank you enough, but I don't want to cause any more trouble, so I've decided to accept this marriage proposal. Maybe, like Dad said, this is my last chance. My grandparents cried soundlessly and hugged me tightly. And then a few days later, I had to meet with the man from the proposal and his parents. I hadn't expected that this meeting would change my fate at all. The prospective groom, a man named Matthew, was hunched over and always looking down. His face was mostly hidden by his hair, and his skin seemed to be rough in places. His voice was so quiet that I sometimes couldn't understand what he was saying. Matthew barely glanced at my face throughout our meeting and only answered questions in short, clipped sentences. I wondered, is this man going to be my husband? He can't even hold a basic conversation. However, I was in no position to complain. Both sets of parents seemed not only enthusiastic about the marriage, but acted as if it was already decided. I felt comfortable, but I didn't feel like I could say no. Eventually, the marriage arrangement was agreed upon. Sure enough, as the son of a wealthy family, a luxurious high-rise apartment was provided as our new home, furnished with high-end branded appliances and furniture. However, our conversations didn't flow well. It was almost like he couldn't see me. He was so silent. However, being constantly silent was also stressful, so I tried to find a conversation topic. Why did you accept this marriage proposal, Matthew? Upon asking this, he surprisingly began to take off his long-sleeved shirt. Confused by his sudden action and in a state of panic, I saw that his skin was red and appeared inflamed. He explained, I suffer from a skin disease called psoriasis. It doesn't transfer from touch, so please don't worry. But because of its appearance, I've reached this point without any romantic experiences. There were even rumors that I had an STD, which is impossible. Moreover, my appearance is so unattractive that even my parents don't want to involve themselves with me. They probably brought up this marriage to get rid of me. I'm sorry for involving you in my circumstances. After explaining, he redressed and bowed deeply to me. I saw a glimpse of inflammation at his hairline, and I understood that he was growing his bangs long to hide it. I see. Please, raise your head. I'm in a similar situation too. When Matthew raised his face, I told him everything about my past. When he heard my story about high school, he started crying. I can't believe something like that happened to you. It must have been so hard at the time. It's unacceptable that a guy would do that to you, treating you like an exhibit. That's outrageous. He became angry to a stranger on my behalf and offered me words of comfort. Despite having experienced his share of hardships, he cried and became angry upon hearing my story. I wondered, how kind-hearted is this man? Seeing this, I commented, we seem quite similar, don't we? Matthew replied, blushing with a shy smile. I was thinking the same thing. After that, we spent the entire night sharing our life stories, crying, getting angry, and sympathizing with each other. From then on, we slowly started to understand each other. I tried to understand his disease and collected a variety of information, trying everything from dietary therapy to supplements. But, I noticed that he was surprisingly picky about food, especially vegetables. So I tried different seasonings and cooking methods and made various arrangements so that he could eat more easily. Then perhaps, finding the taste to his liking, he began to enjoy his meals, saying they were delicious. He began to improve his constitution, little by little, by taking in nutrients through meals and taking medication. Also, to reduce stress, we started doing things like yoga and having lots of conversations, and I saw Matthew's smile slowly increase. Matthew never made a nasty comment about my face, but rather, he repeatedly praised me, saying, cute, while blushing. Just once when I asked him, don't you dislike my face? He told me, not at all. It's part of your character, and I think it's cute. And you've managed to stand up on your own despite going through tough times. I don't think there's another woman who's as strong and wonderful as you." His words gave me a profound sense of comfort. Over the following few years, we carried out a plan to improve Matthew's physical condition. As a result, his skin inflammation calmed down a bit, and the inflammation at his hairline became less noticeable. Moreover, thanks to his disciplined lifestyle, he lost weight and turned into a slim and smart-looking Matthew. I couldn't help but fall in love with him all over again. When he tidied up his obstructive bangs, it suited him very well. Matthew, who had been shy about his skin condition until now, said, "I can't show Sophia an unsightly figure." He became more confident, and the impression of the people at his office slowly changed for the better. Apparently, he hadn't told anyone about his disease, assuming they wouldn't understand. When he finally opened up about it, he was surprised that everyone accepted him. They even told him, "Why didn't you tell us? Trust us more." One day, while we were spending such days, Matthew suddenly said, "Hey, do you want to have a wedding ceremony?" Even though I had become a bit more positive since marrying him, I was still afraid of appearing in front of a large crowd. When I hesitated, he said, "If you really hate the idea, of course we don't have to." But I thought it would be a good way to express our gratitude to the people at my company who helped me. But the fact that I can even think like this is all thanks to you, Sophia. The old me would have thought that a wedding ceremony was impossible because I didn't want my dirty skin to be seen. But thanks to your cooperation, my symptoms have calmed down. So I think I can face forward more than before. His gentle words moved me, and after a lot of soul searching, I decided that I wanted to take a step forward and agreed to have a wedding ceremony. But I don't have any friends, so the only ones I invited were my parents, grandparents, and my sister. However, when it was less than 4 months until the wedding, my sister was found to be pregnant. To be safe, my sister decided to absent herself, so in the end, only my parents and grandparents attended. My grandparents were happy to participate, but my parents clearly disliked the idea. However, they couldn't refuse due to their status, so they participated reluctantly. The same was true for Matthew's parents. They didn't seem happy at all, but because some of their foundation's associates and people they knew were attending, they reluctantly agreed to come. But both sets of parents were good at maintaining appearances, so in front of the other guests, they said things they didn't really think, such as, "We struggled with his illness, but we're glad that he has grown up so well," or, "We're proud of our child, who has lived strongly without being defeated by prejudice," all the while pretending to be moved to tears. The guests, fooled by our parents' false tears and words, even shed a few sympathetic tears, which only added to my astonishment at their audacity in wanting to be seen in a good light despite everything. But Matthew was not one to silently endure our parents' deceit. When it was time for the groom's letter to be read aloud, he chose that moment to speak about his past. He spoke about how he had endured a difficult time as a student because of prejudice and discrimination due to his skin disease. Despite his condition not being contagious, no one would touch anything he had touched. But meeting and marrying me had given him a more positive outlook. He also said, "Both my wife and I have received terrible treatment from our own parents. My wife was constantly compared to her older sister and was verbally abused her whole life. When she stopped going to school due to cruel comments from her classmates about her facial disease in high school, her parents never took her seriously and even said she should apologize to anyone who had to confess to her because of her faith. This hurt her so deeply that she could hardly go outside. I too was frequently berated by my parents about my skin, being called dirty over and over again. Here is the proof." With that, he played a recording of his parents berating him for his skin condition. The voice recording included terrible comments like, "Your skin makes us uncomfortable to look at," and "We should have never had a child with such dirty skin." His parents tried to stop the recording, but it was too late. The cold stares of the listeners pierced them, and they were dumbstruck. My parents also seemed extremely uncomfortable as whispers circulated around them. Despite the awkward conclusion to our wedding ceremony, many of the invited guests expressed their understanding towards us, with comments like, "You've worked hard until now," and "We'll keep supporting you." However, this public revelation later became a big issue. It turned out that Matthew's parents headed a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting disabled individuals, based on the principle of creating a society where people with disabilities can live easily. The revelation that they had been cruel to their own child who suffered from a skin disease became a problem. Eventually, the criticism and opposition from those around them didn't stop, and they were forced to step down from their leadership positions in the organization. As for my parents, it was revealed that they had accepted a substantial dowry to marry me off to Matthew, and they started being referred to as beasts who sold their own child for money by those around them. However, they squandered that dowry for their own selfish desires, and with no knowledge whatsoever, decided to dabble in stocks, leading to a huge loss. Eventually, they ended up in debt due to the tune of over $200,000, far exceeding the amount of the dowry they received. They had the audacity to ask for our help, but we firmly refused. Even when they came knocking a few more times, we moved away and changed our phone numbers. Now, we're living peacefully together. I guess there really is such a thing as a destined meeting. I am incredibly happy right now. Though the start was rocky, meeting Matthew and marrying him has made me feel truly blessed. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope to see you again in the next video.
What do you think the time is? Where's my dinner?
I'm sorry, but I did tell you this morning that I'd be late again due to work.
You think I can remember every little thing like that? Ugh. I wish I could just ditch my old wife and marry a younger woman.
Whenever my husband has a complaint, he jumps to the idea of getting rid of his old wife. Today, he is griping about a late dinner, even though I had told him that I'll be late because my part-time job is busy right now. He conveniently forgets his own forgetfulness. My name is Lissa. I've been married to Jimmy, who was frequenting my workplace for 13 years. What should have been a happy married life soured due to conflicts with father-in-law who lives nearby. Jimmy's philosophy of out with the old, in with the new all comes from father-in-law. Father-in-law regrets that mother-in-law was 3 years older and treats mother-in-law like an old lady every chance he gets. Father-in-law wanted Jimmy to marry a younger woman and made a displeased face when he found out I was 2 years older at our first meeting.
Why would you settle for leftovers? Think about it.
But since father-in-law didn't like me, mother-in-law and sister-in-law were kind to me. Mother-in-law, who loves hot springs, was very pleased when I took her and sister-in-law to the spa. On a day off, I pretended to go to the spa with mother-in-law, but went straight to Home Depot instead. After shopping for various items, I U-turned home about an hour later. When I quietly unlocked the door, I heard water running in the bathroom. Apparently, Jimmy was in there. As I tiptoed down the hallway, I heard a woman's laughter from the bathroom. I knew it. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. Jimmy had brought a woman home, and they were together in the bathroom. Flashback, several hours earlier.
Lissa, you're going to the spa with Mom tomorrow, right?
Yeah, sorry. Shall we cancel tomorrow?
No, it's fine. You haven't been in a while, so take your time. Enjoy some good food,
he said, handing me $100 bill. Jimmy, who usually complained when I came back late from being with mother-in-law, unusually allowed me to return late, and even gave me some spending money? Something was off. Could this be the phenomenon of when a husband cheats, he becomes kinder to his wife? Feeling guilty about cheating, a husband becomes excessively kind to his wife, giving her unusual gifts, which gives away the infidelity. Jimmy's next action confirmed my suspicions.
I'm going to take a shower now.
Jimmy briskly headed to the bathroom, even taking his mobile phone. Normally, Jimmy hated showers, calling them a hassle. He never went to the bathroom unless I nagged him. Afterwards, he'd wander around in just his underwear, refusing to dress, saying,
"It's my house. What's wrong with doing as I please?"
By the way, Jimmy never used his mobile phone to listen to music in the bathroom. So why would he take his phone into the bathroom? It meant either he had someone he wanted to contact immediately or didn't want me to see his phone. Both scenarios point to one fact. Jimmy is having an affair. Normally, I trust Jimmy, and as much as possible, even though we're married, I don't want to invade his privacy by looking into his mobile phone. However, if there's a possibility of infidelity, I cannot just overlook it. That's a fact. Late at night, I quietly woke up and sneakily opened Jimmy's mobile phone. The passcode was likely a combination of the numbers on the license plate of a car he used to own. Since his bank PIN is the same, I roughly figured it out. Sure enough, the mobile phone opened easily. Then, picture after picture emerged, each featuring a young woman who looked at least 10 years younger and a middle-aged man with a receding hairline. I was amazed that such an older man like my husband could get attention from a young woman like her. And there were text messages between them too. Who's this? Oh, the other party is Crystal. Got it. The most recent conversation revealed Jimmy's joyful voice and the reason for the extra allowance he had given me.
Tomorrow, wife will be out for sure.
Yeah? So, as promised, can I come to your house?
I'll be waiting.
Then I'll wear the underwear you bought me last time. Will you undress me?
Of course.
In the bed you always share with your wife.
Yes.
The fact that Jimmy, who once loved me so much, was gone weighed heavily on my heart. That night, I cried quietly by myself. I swore I will definitely take revenge. Now, I tiptoed to the door in front of the bathroom and locked it with a motorcycle theft prevention lock. The loud sound of the lock closing didn't seem to be noticed, as I had timed it with the commotion in the bathroom. I called my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law, Jimmy is indeed having an affair. I knew it. Lisa, I'm truly sorry. I'll be right there. Looking around the living room, I saw an unfamiliar female bag. I took out the mobile phone inside and found no passcode. In the phone book, I saw Mom, but got no answer. Next was Brother, so I called there. Hello, are you Crystal's brother?
Who are you?
I introduced myself and began to explain. Actually, at my house right now, Crystal is in the bathroom with my husband.
What? Are you saying my sister Crystal is having an affair with your husband?
I don't want to believe it, but it seems that way.
What? My sister's kind and cares about our mother. Don't lie.
His shouting was so loud that I had to hold the phone away from my ear as I continued. So I thought I'd ask you to come pick her up. I tried calling your mother, but she didn't answer. Why not see for yourself if I'm lying?
I see. Mom didn't answer.
Yes.
Good. Mom is preparing for surgery and is in the hospital. Please, I'll come, but promise not to call Mom.
I understand if that's the situation, I promise.
Thank you. I owe you one.
After a while, the doorbell rang repeatedly. Then the sound of water coming from the bathroom quieted down.
Who is it at this time? Is it a delivery?
Jimmy, what are you doing? Giving up halfway? A conversation was overheard. Yes. I reacted to the doorbell and to the two people in the bathroom, the one surprised.
Yikes. Lisa, why?
Oh, your wife! With panicked voices, more splashing water could be heard. Then a loud noise of someone trying to open the bathroom door came through.
Hey, what's going on? It won't open. Hey, let me out.
I could imagine Jimmy's pathetic attempt to open the door naked, and I opened the front door laughing. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law's relatives were all gathered. Lissa, where's Jimmy? Is he still inside? Yes, I locked it tight. Way to go! Yes, evidence is most important, I thought.
Mom? Sister?
A sound like dropping a heavy load was heard. It seemed that Jimmy had fallen over in surprise. Come on, this is not time to sit down. Mother-in-law screamed at the sight of the scattered clothes for two in the living room. What is this? Evidence number 2. I'll collect it now. I picked up the woman's clothing and unlocked the bathroom. Inside were 2 pale-faced individuals wrapped in bath towels. Here's Crystal's clothes. Please come out once you've dressed.
Hey, what about mine?
Jimmy, this should be enough for you.
Just underwear?
Well, Jimmy, you always wear underwear only after a bath, don't you? After a while, the 2 seemed resigned and came out of the bathroom. Jimmy was in his underwear, and his wet hair was plastered thinly to his forehead.
Lissa, I'm sorry. I'll grant you any wish. Please forgive me.
A divorce will suffice.
Don't rely on my money. What? But you said you don't need an older wife. A woman who scatters clothes all over the living room is no better than Lissa. Cheating is your own fault. You'll have to work daily jobs or whatever to earn the divorce settlement. No way, Dad.
Just then, the doorbell rang, announcing a visitor. When I responded, Crystal screamed at the sight of the man on the monitor. My brother! I'm sorry, I called him. It's not fair to only Jimmy. He'll kill me.
Oh, Crystal, are you okay?
It's not me. It's Jimmy who's not okay. My brother is a former fighter.
What?
Opening the door, a tall man was already bowing deeply.
I'm Mike, Crystal's brother. I apologize for the trouble my sister has caused you.
No need to apologize, sir. Anyway, please come in.
Excuse me, Crystal?
Mike stood up, a muscular man who appeared to be 6'5" tall. He walked into the living room, then looked straight at his sister with sharp, animal-like eyes. Crystal looked like she was about to cry.
Crystal, did you really have an affair with this man?
His sister nodded with a pale face. Mike slowly shifted his gaze to Jimmy, coming close enough that their noses almost touched. Jimmy was unable to even meet his eyes, frozen in terror by the intensity of Mike's gaze.
You tricked and toyed with Crystal.
Jimmy froze, unable to move.
What's going on?
Jimmy, who was firmly grabbed by the shoulders and couldn't escape, nodded his head like a broken doll. Mike laughed at himself, saying,
Oops, it's unprofessional to hit an amateur,
and released Jimmy's shoulders, bowing his head deeply again.
Listen, family, my sister has truly caused you trouble, but I still can't believe it, even hearing it from Crystal's mouth. My sister has had a crush on someone. Well, he's my disciple. If he was willing, I was planning to let them marry.
With Mitch? Crystal's cheeks turned red and her eyes sparkled.
Well, that's all ruined now.
No way.
Of course. You, trying to be happy by stealing someone else's happiness? What are you thinking, huh?
Crystal shrank to half her size at the loud, angry voice. The mystery deepens. Crystal likes this Mitch guy, right? So, why with my balding brother?
I'm not balding, not yet.
No, it's too late now. It's because Jimmy said he would pay for my mother's surgery. Apparently, Crystal's mother needed expensive surgery, and she got involved with Jimmy because he dangled money in front of her.
What? Just because it's for your mother? Infidelity with a married man is not acceptable. Haven't you learned from the pain?
Eek, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Crystal apologized, rubbing her head on the floor. Jimmy, you have a good wife like Lissa, and you took advantage of Crystal's feelings for her parents.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Jimmy apologized, his forehead nearly buried in the floor. But the thing with my mother was just the beginning, and I got hooked too. I'm sorry. While keeping Mike, who had been apologizing all along, standing. I had an idea. Mother, about the compensation you said you'd give me? I'll have Jimmy pay for it, so if you'd like, use it for Crystal's mother's surgery. Oh yes, let's do that.
No. Just the thought is enough. Don't underestimate my shop's income, Crystal.
I picked up my packed carry-on bag and handed Jimmy the divorce papers.
You're prepared? Huh?
Yes, I prepared, all night crying, preparing to leave you.
Lissa, I'm sorry.
I left the house, leaving Jimmy 3 years later. A long line formed in front of the sign. Knockout Grill and Bar number 2 opening today. Welcome. Oh, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, father-in-law, too. You all came. And thank you for the opening flowers. Lissa, congratulations on the opening. And this is a wedding gift. Mother-in-law handed over a bag filled with thick wads of cash. Oh, I can't accept this much. Why not? Just take it. Thank you. Mitch, come over here.
Thank you for your kindness and for giving us a good deal on the rent for this place. Mitch's barbecue ribs are exceptional. It's a small thing compared to that.
I thought that after the divorce, I wouldn't see mother-in-law and the others again, and felt lonely. But mother-in-law and the others still called me and invited me to the spa. The only thing that's changed is what's written on paper, they said, so I remained a spa buddy with mother-in-law and sister-in-law just like before. After learning about Mike's shop through Crystal's situation, and since father-in-law loved barbecue ribs, we became captivated by their deliciousness. When Mitch, who was training at Mike's shop, confessed to me, I initially refused since he was 7 years younger. But surprisingly, father-in-law approved.
Lissa, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Your calm and generous handling of Jimmy's affair was impressive. That's when you see the difference in people. There's nothing better than an older wife. I do wish you'd reconcile with Jimmy, but thinking of your happiness, isn't being with Mitch the best thing for you?
And now, Mitch and I are married. And Mitch, who rented land from father-in-law, decided to open a shop there under a franchise agreement with Mike's shop. By the way, I don't know if Jimmy's affair was discovered by his company, but he was transferred to the Dallas branch and hasn't been able to return. Speaking of which, it's good that Mike's mother is doing well. How's Crystal? Mike is helping out today as well.
She's transferred to Seoul, heartbroken. It's her own fault. Ha 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 ha.
Crystal, who broke up with Jimmy, confessed to Mitch, but was rejected, saying,
I have someone I like.
Mitch asked me out right after that. Yes, it's really delicious. It's getting great reviews on social media, too. Thank you. It's all thanks to you. The time when Jimmy was cheating in the bathroom now seems like the lowest point in my life. Step by step, I built bonds with various people, and now I'm here. From now on, Mitch and I want to live happily by continuing to make delicious barbecue ribs, putting our hearts into each dish.
My name is Emily. I'm 30 and currently pregnant. When I was 23, I was diagnosed with a condition that might prevent me from ever having children. For my younger self, that diagnosis was a heavy burden to bear. I feared that any potential romantic partners would reject me if they knew I might not be able to have children, so I stayed away from relationships. But then last year, I reconnected with Logan at our high school reunion. Logan confessed that he'd had feelings for me since high school and asked to exchange contact information at the reunion. Logan expressed his affection for me with such persistence and strength that I found myself growing attracted to him too. I had been honest with Logan about my potential inability to have children, but Logan said he still wanted to marry me, and so we tied the knot last year. Then, like a miracle, I found out that I was pregnant with Logan's child. I was so thrilled that I showed Logan the ultrasound picture I received from the obstetrician that very day. Logan cried with joy at the news of my pregnancy, and seeing his tears made me cry too. I resolved to cherish and protect the life growing inside me. I decided to bring this child in the world and raise it with all my love. A few days later, I found myself heading back to my parents' house alone. Logan couldn't come because of work, but I wanted to tell my mom about the pregnancy as soon as possible. My mother had comforted me when I was diagnosed with potential infertility, assuring me that a life without children could also be wonderful. She was also the first to celebrate when Logan and I decided to get married. My father passed away when I was very young, and my mom single-handedly raised my brother and me. My father had a good salary and left a sizable inheritance, but my mom continued to work until her retirement. My mom now lives alone in a house, leading an elegant life. She goes to the hobby club every day, tends to her garden, and even makes trendy do-it-yourself shelves, truly savoring her life. I was sure Mom would be overjoyed at the news of my pregnancy. As I arrived at my parents' house with high hopes, Mom greeted me with a smile. "Welcome home, Emily! Ryan and his family are here today." I knew from the voices of my nieces that my brother's family was visiting. Though I'm not particularly fond of my sister-in-law, my eagerness to share my pregnancy news with Mom had me entering the house nonetheless. From my perspective, my brother's wife, Chloe, can be a bit nasty. Chloe, who married my brother Ryan 7 years ago, made a remark I still can't forget when I was feeling down about being diagnosed with potential infertility. "If you can't have children, maybe you should give up on getting married," she said seriously. When I announced my marriage to Logan, she made things even more uncomfortable by saying things like, "How much did you get from your mother-in-law as a wedding gift? What's the point of getting married if you can't even have children?" It was a bitter experience, but creating a rift with Chloe, who is my brother's wife, would do no good. I had always brushed off Chloe's comments with a wry smile and never told Mom about them. As I entered the house with Mom, my nieces were happily playing pretend, while Ryan and Chloe were sitting at the table drinking coffee. After greeting my brother and his wife, I took a seat at the table and Mom poured me a cup of coffee as well. I was hesitant about sharing my pregnancy news with Chloe, but I thought she might not say anything unpleasant if I announced it in front of Mom, so I gathered my courage and began to speak. "I actually came here today because I have some news to share. I am pregnant." As I gently rubbed my stomach and announced the news, Mom exclaimed, "Really?" Chloe muttered a quiet, "You got to be kidding," and my brother shouted, "Congratulations!" "I know you were worried about potentially being unable to get pregnant, Emily. I am so glad for you. Logan really is your destiny. Congratulations." Mom just have been incredibly happy as she began to shed tears of joy. Remembering how Mom had supported me when I was feeling down, I too started tearing up. But I noticed Chloe whispering something to Ryan, and that got my attention. Repeatedly thanking Mom as I gently rubbed her back. Mom finally seemed to calm down and told me with a warm smile, "You must take care of yourself." Just then, the doorbell rang, as if on cue. "Oh, I wonder if that's a package delivery. I'll be right back." As soon as Mom was out of the room, heading towards the entrance, Chloe leaned in and started speaking to me. "Is it true that you're pregnant? You said you might be not able to get pregnant. Was that a lie to gain sympathy from our mother-in-law?" Huh? Caught off guard by her unexpected accusation, I could only stare at her in surprise, while my brother feigned ignorance. Seeing no help coming, I firmly responded, "No, that's not true. It's true that the doctors told me I might not be able to get pregnant. Even the doctors were surprised that I could, and my husband was overjoyed," I explained. "You should consider terminating the pregnancy." "What?" "It's better to do it sooner. I heard it's less stressful on the body." The horrifying words coming from Chloe made me shudder. Instinctively, I hugged myself as if to protect my unborn child. How could anyone say such a thing to someone who's excited about their pregnancy? I couldn't believe we were the same species. Even my brother seemed shocked by her statement. "Hey, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?" he defended me. But Chloe glared at him and continued. "But if Emily has a baby, our mother-in-law will definitely spend her money on that child. It's obvious that she would love her own daughter's child more. I can't stand the thought of our children getting less money." "So, you are telling me to abort my child because of money?" "I didn't say abort. I suggested that it might be better. Who knows if a child carried by a mother who might not even be able to get pregnant can be born healthy. I'm just thinking about what's best for your baby too, Emily." I was certain her claim of considering my child's well-being was a complete lie. Chloe was pushing me to abort my child out of fear that she would receive less financial support from our mother-in-law. She was always dressed in designer clothes, and her 2 daughters were the same high-end fashion. Moreover, she and my brother lived in a large house and drove an expensive foreign car. I knew my brother worked at a sizable company and earned a good salary, but I couldn't imagine it would be enough for such luxuries. Though it was hard to believe, I deduced from our conversation that my brother and his wife were receiving a significant amount of money from our mother-in-law. "I have no intention of receiving financial support from Mom. Please stop suggesting that I should terminate." "The baby can hear you," Chloe snorted at my words. "There's no way the baby can hear," she retorted, with a mean expression on her face. To me, she looked like a devil. When my mom returned, my brother and his wife suddenly became restless. It quickly became clear that they were afraid I would tell my mother about their behavior. "Since it's almost lunchtime, should we order takeout?" "Ah, that sounds great. Let's have pizza. Pizza sounds nice." "I think I'll head home. I'm feeling a bit tired." I was frustrated with my brother and his wife for planning to splurge on lunch. But more than that, I was feeling suffocated sharing the same space with Chloe. As I stood up and explained my mom that I didn't want to impose, she looked concerned and asked, "Are you sure you're okay?" I just smiled and nodded before leaving. That night, when Logan came home, I told him about what had happened, my mood still low. Logan was furious with Chloe. "I'm going to call her and give her a piece of my mind right now," he fumed. But I stopped him. If we, who were relatives after all, started a fight with Chloe, it would cause unnecessary trouble for my mom. However, I couldn't stand seeing my mom being treated like a cash cow by Chloe. I decided to report today's events to her. A few days later, once I confirmed that my brother and his wife weren't visiting, I went to my mom's home and explained the situation. She smiled warmly. "I've known that Ryan and Chloe have been depending on my money," she said. Just the other day, Chloe said she needed an outfit for a ballet recital. I thought it was for my granddaughter, but I was shocked when I ended up buying clothes for Chloe. But don't worry, I have no intention of forgiving a daughter-in-law who says such things to my sweet daughter, and a son who doesn't stop her. Our always gentle mom was quietly furious. A few days later, my mom summoned both us and my brother's family to her home. Dressed in brand-name clothes as usual, Chloe arrived with my brother. After giving us, casually dressed as always, a thorough once-over, Chloe dramatically tilted her head. "Even if it's just your family home, is that outfit okay? If you need clothes, I can give you some of our hand-me-downs. We like our clothes. We're not into flashy clothes like you, Chloe." When Logan gave her a straight answer, Chloe huffled, "I see," and sat down grumpily. I knew Logan was angry when my mom called us, saying, "Emily doesn't need to talk to Chloe anymore. He probably wanted to protect me from Chloe." Just as I was feeling grateful for having married such a dependable husband, my mom entered the room with a man. He was the accountant who had helped my father when he was the president of his company. It was revealed that he was here to talk about my mom's plans for old age and inheritance. "I'm the eldest son, and in return for taking care of our mother in her old age, I'll receive all the inheritance. That's only fair. I'll take good care of our mother-in-law. If a demon like you were to take care of me, I'd die early. I'm preparing to move into a home for the elderly, so don't worry." With that, she handed out pamphlets for the nursing home to both us and my brother's family. We were surprised to learn that my mom was planning to move into a nursing home, but what shocked us even more were her words to Chloe. Chloe seemed stunned too. She froze for the moment, then murmured in a trembling voice, That's harsh. It hurts to hear you say that when I care so much for you, and I was hurt too, to hear Chloe tell my precious daughter to abort her baby. Why would you?" But Chloe glared at me. I glared back. I reported everything to Mom. "You tattled on me?" Chloe's voice rose in anger, and Logan just shrugged his shoulders. "Well, maybe you shouldn't have said something that would cause trouble if it were reported," Logan countered. "It's only natural for Emily to tell our mother-in-law if you said something like that." Ignoring Chloe, who was gritting her teeth in frustration, my mom said, "Now, let's get back to the matter at hand. As for the distribution of my inheritance, I've decided that all my assets will go to Emily after my death." "What? Why, Mom? I'm your eldest son." "According to our tax consultant, all of the gifts you received from me during my lifetime should count." My older brother and Chloe, bewildered, could only stare blankly as the tax consultant took out several documents from a file. One by one, my mom laid them out on the table. "The cost of your wedding, your honeymoon, down payment on your house and car. I lent you the money for all of this with the understanding that you would pay me back, but I haven't received a cent in return." The documents laid out on the table were all loan agreements. Each one detailed how much was borrowed from Mom and what for. At the end of each document were the clear signatures of my older brother and Chloe. I've decided not to request repayment for these loans. Instead, I will count them as gifts made during my lifetime. This way, by leaving the remainder of my estate to Emily, I'm making sure everything is equal. "You're joking." Next to him, Chloe went after Mom. "But Mom, you're going to be spending money on Emily's child from now on, aren't you? Your own daughter's child has to be more precious to you. Isn't that also a gift made during your lifetime?" She wants me to use my money solely to enjoy the rest of my life. Therefore, from now on, I will only be giving gifts to my grandchild on special occasions. Chloe seemed far from satisfied, but as the tax consultant calmly explained the property distribution, she seemed to have run out of objections. My older brother, realizing he would not be receiving an inheritance, looked deeply disappointed. The mood in the room was tense and somber. However, I felt a strong sense of relief knowing that Mom wouldn't be treated like a cash machine any longer. After this discussion, my older brother and Chloe stopped visiting our mother's house. So they really did only see me as a volatile, but after my child was born, I started visiting home more often. Whenever she was able to play with her grandchild, she seemed truly happy. Even without the money, just seeing Mom shower my child with love was more than enough for me. I later heard from Mom that Chloe used to mock us for both having jobs. Chloe, who had been a stay-at-home wife, apparently used to make comments like, "Emily and her husband are just poor, so they have to work." But now, she works much longer hours than me to pay for the house and car loans and for her kids' extracurricular activities. Living a lifestyle beyond her means, counting on Mom's wallet, she now has no choice but to work as she can't bring herself to lower her standard of living. Ever since she started working, she's been increasingly irritable. Mom says that my brother has been calling more frequently to vent about Chloe. Struggling to balance housework, child rearing, and work, their home is always in a mess, and there seems to be no end to their problems. I've heard that my brother is even considering divorce. Right now, my husband and I are pouring our love into our child that came us like a miracle. Of course, we don't receive any support from Mom, so we are working on hard to save for our child's future education. Despite the busy days, just seeing our child smile makes us feel, let's do our best again tomorrow. I can only hope that my brother and Chloe will adopt to a lifestyle within their means and be able to sustain their marriage.
My name is Olivia. I'm a 37-year-old mom working part-time while raising 2 daughters. I live with my 10-year-old eldest daughter, my 8-year-old second daughter, and my husband Liam. I always thought our peaceful life would continue as we watch our daughters grow up. But then, something happened. After dinner, when the girls had gone to bed, Liam began to speak seriously while having a nightcap. "Wait, Sophia is getting a divorce?" "Yeah, it seems like she found out her husband has debt." "That's tough." Sophia is Liam's sister. She got married about 6 years ago and has a 4-year-old kid. So she's going to be a single mom? "Yeah, she's moving near us next month. Can you help her out?" I immediately nodded my agreement. Divorce is hard enough, let alone raising a child alone. I know firsthand how challenging it is to raise kids. That's why I wanted to help. Let's support Sophia as a family. Liam was pleased that I agreed so readily. Little did I know what was coming. The next month, Sophia and her son Ethan moved into an apartment about a 5-minute walk from our house. On the day of the move, Liam and I invited Sophia and Ethan for a little housewarming. Our eldest daughter Emma and our second daughter Ava seemed to enjoy Ethan's company. "It's been tough for you, Sophia." She gulped down her beer and said, "Marriage is a nightmare. I regret it so much. If I hadn't gotten pregnant with Ethan, I'd never have married that irresponsible man." I held my tongue, considering she must be exhausted from the divorce. Come to think of it, Sophia was the type to say whatever was on her mind. I remember her candid nature. She told Liam, "You're marrying someone this plain?" during a family meeting. Well, at that time, my mother-in-law, Isabella, who was right next to me, scolded her harshly. "Well, if you need anything, just tell us," Liam said, beaming at her. "I'm lucky I moved near you. I was thinking of going back to Mom's, but she can be too much sometimes." Sophia and Liam's mother, Isabella, has a strained relationship. mostly because Isabella scolds her. If you need anything, call Olivia. Right, Olivia? Yes, just tell me, I replied, but I felt uneasy. I was going to become her personal assistant. I had a feeling like that. That premonition turned out to be true. The day after Sophia moved in, the doorbell rang while I was preparing dinner. Emma, can you get that? My eldest daughter, who was watching TV, opened the door. Mom, it's Sophia and Ethan. What? Could it be something urgent? As I walked to the door, Sophia blurted out, I'm broke right now. We came to have dinner. I can't prepare anything right away. I'm sorry. But you said I could come anytime if I had trouble. She gave me a sulky look. How could she show up like this? Certainly, it was me who said, help yourself anytime. That day, I had food delivered just for Sophia and Ethan and looked after them at our house. The suggestion came from Liam, who had just returned from work. Sophia's been through a lot. Treat her to some good food. He's so indulgent with Sophia, honestly. After dinner, Sophia and Ethan took baths at our place and then went home. Sophia, could you give us a heads up next time? We need to prepare too. I said this as they were leaving, but it was Liam who took issue with me. Hey, Olivia, Sophia is having a tough time raising a child on her own. Don't say that to her. He glared at me, then turned to Sophia. Don't worry about anything, Sophia. You can lean on us as much as you need to. Thanks, Liam. And Olivia, I'll be counting on you more from now on. True to her word, Sophia came over nearly every day to eat dinner and take baths. You could at least take baths at home, I think to myself. But she persists, saying, it saves on utilities. Perhaps her frugal living has increased because Liam's debt was the reason for their divorce? Either way, isn't this a bit too much? I've protested to Liam multiple times. Isn't she coming over too often? Sophia is struggling, raising a kid alone. But Emma and Ava are also getting inconvenienced because of her constant visits. When she comes over, Sophia leaves Ethan with Emma and Ava and spends all her time watching TV in the living room. Emma and Ava also want to watch TV, but they're too busy caring for Ethan. I've told her multiple times to take care of Ethan herself, but she brushes it off, saying, I need a break too. The real problem is Liam. He coddles Sophia so much that she feels no need to do anything, all while having no consideration for me, his wife. Although Liam is spoiled for his own sister, he has no intention of pampering me, his wife. Can we limit Sophia and Ethan's visits to only our days off? That was my non-negotiable term, to protect Emma and Ava's daily lives. Liam had a bitter look on his face, but said, You're a surprisingly unpleasant woman. I understand. He said something unnecessary and understood. Liam reluctantly agreed, calling me surprisingly unpleasant. But then he started going over to Sophia's apartment almost every day himself. Emma and Ava began to worry, asking, Is Dad not coming home again tonight? Did you and Dad have a fight? It's unacceptable for him to be away from home every day when he's not on a business trip. Frustrated, I called Liam's phone. Where are you? I'm at Sophia's place. Just gave Ethan a bath. He said this without a hint of shame. Have you ever given your daughter a bath? I'd reached my limit and decided to have a serious talk with Liam over the weekend. I told him how his absence was causing Emma and Ava anxiety. I didn't want to create tension between us, so I asked him to at least reduce the frequency of his visits. His reply? Fine. You make meals for Sophia and Ethan then. Enough for 3 meals. Wait, what? Sophia is too busy to prepare food. You should help her. Hold on, she's not working, so why can't she? Sophia is still recovering from the trauma of her divorce. Plus, she feels coldness coming from you. You really should be more sympathetic. My mistrust of Liam, who was oddly supportive of Sophia, intensified. Making 3 meals a day is impossible. I'm already up at 5 a.m. taking care of the house. If I have to make 3 meals for 2 people, I'd have to wake up 2 hours earlier. Why don't you just wake up at 3 a.m. then? Excuse me? I have a part-time job, you know. Don't act so high and mighty over a part-time job. You're probably just gossiping with other housewives. Don't joke around. It's not happening. Absolutely not. You want a divorce or something? The word divorce suddenly came from Liam, and I was shocked. Divorce? What do you mean? If you can't listen to me, then we should divorce. You said you'd help Sophia initially. What's with this attitude? You're betraying me. That's my line. Who's fed up with Liam and Sophia taking advantage of my good intentions? I'm the one who's disgusted. Was he always this unreasonable? The conversation ended unresolved that day, and we went to bed in awkward silence. The next day, Liam declared to Emma and Ava, "You guys will be the ones supporting Sophia and Ethan from now on. Mom says she won't help because she's mean, but you guys are different, right? Helping people in need is just common sense." Emma and Ava looked stunned at their dad's unreasonable proposal. "When you get back from school, go straight to Sophia's house. Help with shopping and chores. Don't come home until you're done helping. Got it?" Unbelievable. Is Liam trying to turn Emma and Ava into household servants because he thinks I'm useless? This is just too much. Emma and Ava said, "Dad, we don't get what you're saying. Mom, we're leaving," and left the house. They probably decided it's okay to ignore what their absent dad says. Liam said, "You should tell Emma and Ava too. Since you won't help Sophia, it can't be helped." I've reached my limit. Both Liam and Sophia need a lesson. That day, I changed my part-time shift and visited my in-laws' house. "Oh, Olivia, what brings you here so suddenly?" "Isabella, sorry to bother you on your day off. The thing is..." I was relieved to find Isabella, who happened to be off work. I took a deep breath to calm myself and explained the situation. Tears started to flow from my eyes. "Oh my, what happened? Did something painful happen?" Yes, something painful and sad did happen. I confided everything to Isabella. Sophia might be afraid of her mom, Isabella, but I've always loved her. Isabella, who lost her husband early and raised 2 kids alone, is strong, resilient, and kind. I came to this house today believing she would help me. Isabella listened to my story in silence, her face turning red. "So that's what happened. My foolish children have done something terrible." "I didn't mean to blame you, Isabella. Leave it to me. I'll take care of them." I couldn't help but chuckle at Isabella's words, who loves historical dramas. "You finally smiled," Isabella said, looking at me kindly. "You looked so distressed when you came, I was worried. But now that you've smiled, I feel a bit relieved." "Isabella, let's go teach those kids a lesson. Get pumped!" Encouraged by Isabella, I stood up. "Sophia, we're coming in!" Isabella and I visited Sophia's apartment. Mom? What? What's up? What do you mean, what's up? What's with this messy room? What have you been doing all day?" "The room is a mess, with trash and belongings scattered everywhere. Even the bed is unmade. The sink smells bad, apparently filled with food waste. Is Ethan being raised in a place like this? But Ethan isn't in the room." "Where's Ethan?" Isabella immediately asks on my behalf. He's at the daycare center." "Since when? Which daycare center?" I immediately ask back. After all, daycare centers around here are highly competitive. It's hard to get in midway, and I had a tough time getting Emma and Ava in. Plus, I haven't heard anything about this from Liam. Something's fishy. That's none of your business." Sophia snaps back at me, but Isabella counters. "No, it is our business. Are you sure it's a daycare center? Are you lying?" Cornered by Isabella, Sophia finally gives in. She's been leaving Ethan with an acquaintance during the day. "What? An acquaintance? Can you trust them?" "I don't know. They have a 4-year-old too, so I thought it would be fine." Sophia's irresponsibility is glaring. "You idiot! Go get Ethan right now!" Isabella shouts, and Sophia rushes out to bring Ethan back. "What's wrong with you? You've been causing Olivia so much trouble. What's your deal?" "Well, Liam said Olivia would do whatever he says, so I could take advantage of her." She says this without a hint of remorse. Wait a minute. Is that true? Huh? Did Liam really say that? That I could be exploited? Yes, he said you're like his servant. Even Emma and Ava could be used if needed. Unbelievable. That man, thinking of his wife and Emma and Ava like that. Isabella is also at a loss for words, but it's a good thing Sophia talks too much. Of course, Sophia is problematic, but it's clear that Liam is the root cause. Our target is Liam. Isabella and I waited for Liam to return at Sophia's apartment. Sophia, I'm home! Huh? Liam freezes when he sees Isabella waiting in the room. Mom? Why? Sit down. We've been waiting. Isabella slaps the chair in front of her. Whoa, what's going on? Sit down now! At Isabella's command, Liam straightens up. You've been doing whatever you want, haven't you? As Isabella starts, Liam glares at me. You told Mom, didn't you? Shut up! Both you and Sophia are disgraceful as human beings. Both Liam and Sophia are scolded by Mom and look utterly dejected. It's clear that they're really afraid of Mom. Olivia, what do you want to do from now on? Isabella asks me in a calm voice. The decision was already made. Actually, Emma and Ava are at my parents' house right now. What? Why would you do that without telling me? You're the one who tried to make Emma and Ava into Sophia's personal servants. I saw that as a danger and acted as any parent should to protect their children. So, let's separate for a while. Separate? Just like that? It's not sudden. You've hardly been home except on your days off. And you were the first to mention divorce, remember? Any objections? That was just talk. I won't agree to a separation. He's determined to reject my proposal. That's when Isabella speaks up. If you divorce, I'll be on Olivia's side. I'll handle all the legalities. Only if you really go through with it, though. Isabella explains the legal process of divorce, what to be cautious about in great detail. Yes, Isabella, who loves historical dramas, is an active lawyer. Even past 60, she's still practicing. It's clear why Sophia and Liam fear her. She's been a strong advocate for clients who are suffering from life's injustices. Whether it's her daughter or son, Isabella will stand for justice without compromise. I wonder how such selfish children came from someone as straightforward as her. I'm on Olivia's side. Justice will prevail. No, I'll make sure it prevails. I had no other response but to applaud Isabella. After that, Liam and I separated for 3 months and then divorced. I thought he'd refuse, but he agreed after Isabella talked to him. I don't know what they discussed, but from Liam's words, I don't want to make an enemy of Mom. I can imagine it was a tough conversation. Isabella later told me, you don't want to make an enemy out of a lawyer. Liam probably realized he had no chance of winning if Isabella, a skilled lawyer, was on my side. Well, it was a clear win for Isabella. My last words to Liam were, how does it feel to be overthrown by your servant? Liam said nothing and just looked down. Had he been looking down on me all along? I never saw it that way, but you never know when someone's true nature will reveal itself. As for Sophia, she lost financial support from Isabella after the divorce. There's government assistance, so you'll manage. Stop being spoiled. If you're broke, work and be a responsible mom. After hearing this from Isabella, Sophia seems to have changed her ways and is raising Ethan while working part-time. After the divorce, I switched from part-time to full-time employment. Part-time income wasn't enough to provide a decent life for Emma and Ava. I was offered to take a test for a full-time position at work and luckily passed. Maybe God gave me this chance because of the hardships I faced. I still keep in touch with Isabella even after the divorce. Grandma, I got 100 on my test today. Grandma, I drew a picture in art class. I'll hang it up for you. Emma and Ava love Isabella. Though we're not related by blood, I hope this relationship continues. Olivia, please continue to be friends. Isabella, welcome. After all, Isabella and I have become very close. I'll strive to be a strong and resilient mom like her. Inspired by Isabella's lively interactions with Emma and Ava, I vowed to give my all in the life ahead of me.
I'm Lily Holden, 32 years old. I work part-time at a local supermarket. My husband Alec is 35 and he is a manager at a mid-sized company. We have a 6-year-old daughter named Elsie who's in preschool. We are a family of 3, me, my husband and our daughter. We bought a single-family home a bit away from downtown and have been living here for 4 years. Life is good with a kind husband, a cute daughter, and a home we've always dreamed of. Our neighbors are, well, average. Since it's a newly developed area, most families are similar to ours. Most families in this area are recent arrivals like us, except for the farmer family living behind us. They've been here for a long time and have a large house. The farmer family consists of a husband and a wife and their son. Their son is 28 and, I heard, works at a factory. Their home is old and has a separate annex for their son. Nikki, the wife in the farmer family, is kind of weird. She's known for entering other people's homes and taking things. But since her husband is the community leader, no one really confronts them. People are scared they'll get harassed if they cross the farmer family. In the other words, they abuse their power to do whatever they want. Even the gardening shovel I kept in our backyard disappeared one day. I don't want to accuse anyone, but considering the neighborhood gossip, it makes you wonder. Since then, I've been careful not to leave things unattended. Separately, something else has been bothering me lately. Our electricity bill has skyrocketed. It suddenly increased 2 months ago, and this month it crossed $1,000. This is not normal. It's too abnormal. It's absurdly high for a family of 3. Our highest bill until now was at most $200. Sure, it's getting hotter, but we're not excessive with the air conditioning. We have a mortgage and always try to save where we can. Why is this happening? I really don't know. I checked with Alec, but he's clueless too. Nothing in the house seems to consume that much power. So, concerned it might be an electrical fault, we had the power company investigate. But the inspection revealed no issues. I'm more confused than ever. I've started to be even more conscious of saving electricity around the house. I raise the temperature on the air conditioner and turn off lights whenever possible. I use the hairdryer for shorter periods and mostly dry clothes outside to avoid using the dryer. Yes, there's been almost no change in the bill. Why on earth is our electric bill not going down despite all our efforts to save energy? I'm stumped. Maybe the problem isn't inside the house after all. I decided to change my perspective. If it's not an issue inside the house, then it must be something outside. Come to think of it, there was an outlet outside. I remembered seeing an external outlet next to the water heater when I was tidying up gardening tools in the backyard some time ago. As I suspected, I went around to the back of the house and there it was. Cables were plugged into the external and water heater outlets, each with a splitter extending further. What? Is someone else using our electricity? I followed the cables and they led to the farmer family's property next door. So, if a cable is running from our external outlet to the farmer family's house, they must be the ones using our electricity. I immediately unplugged the cables. The next day, I checked and found the plugs reinserted. For the next few days, it was game of cat and mouse, plugging and unplugging. I realized this wasn't going to resolve itself and decided to talk to Alec. That night, I told Alec everything. How the cables were plugged into our outdoor outlet, led to the farmer family's house, and kept getting replugged. So the reason our electricity bill spiked is that the farmer family has been using it. That makes sense. Do you think we should confront the farmer family? Well, confronting them head-on might make them push back. Let's gather some evidence first. Install a security camera near the outlet. True, they are influential around here, but is it okay to leave things as is for now? We don't want them to catch on and destroy evidence. We can sue them for damages later. Good point, but it still feels wrong. Agreed. They need to face some consequences. But Mr. Farmer is the community leader and his wife, Nikki, is the head of the Women's Association. What if they retaliate? Most people around here are newcomers like us. So I don't think the farmers have that much influence anymore. Yeah, I've noticed we mostly talk to people around our age who recently moved here. In that case, we should be able to counter any retaliation from the farmer family. Be cautious and make sure to record all conversations with them. We'll consult a lawyer tomorrow. Sounds like the plan. I agreed with Alex's suggestion, and we decided to consult a lawyer. The next day, Alec took a day off, and we both went to see the lawyer. We told the lawyer about the electricity theft. Technically, taking electricity from someone else's property is theft. You could also press charges for trespassing since they are invading your property. They could get arrested if you report this to the police. Good point, but we're neighbors and the other party is a local bigwig. I'm concerned that making a big fuss could lead to retaliation. What should we do to handle this as smoothly as possible? Yeah, it's a tough situation. Ideally, the neighbor would realize their mistake and apologize, but from what you've told me, that seems unlikely. So, does that mean we'll have to file a police report? That makes me a bit anxious, considering what might happen later. But this is a real crime causing real harm. If you insist on handling it amicably, maybe you should talk to them directly. All right, I'll try that, thank you. After taking the lawyer's advice, I went to the farmer family's home alone the next day for a discussion. Nervous but determined, I headed to the farmer family home. Of course, I was recording the conversation. Hello, I'm Holden and I live in the house behind yours. Oh, you're Holden. What brings you here? Nikki was the one who came out. I noticed an electrical cord running from my house into your property. Are you aware that you're using my electricity? Nikki responded, We're not doing anything like that. But I've traced the cord back to an outbuilding on your property. Ah, that must be for my son Brian's aquarium. He keeps tropical fish and they do need a lot of electricity. Why are you using my electricity? Why not just use your own? I don't know. You'd have to ask Brian. You are his mother. Shouldn't you know what your son is up to? I really don't know. Brian is an adult. I'm not involved in his affairs. Then, please ask Brian. Brian isn't home right now. Please ask him when he gets back. What time is Mr. Bryant coming home? Brian's not here right now. He'll be home after 7 p.m. You can ask him then. All right, I'll come back around that time. She was quite an unpleasant person. I thought she lacked a sense of responsibility even about her own son. So I returned to the farmer family's home when I thought Bryant would be back. Bryant was there, but he was a quite gloomy guy. As I was explaining the situation again, Bryant led me to his room in the outbuilding. Wow, beautiful! I couldn't help but exclaim as he led me into the room. One room in the annex was spectacular. The entire wall was lined with aquariums filled with dazzling tropical fish. It was like a small aquarium. Each tank had a circulating pump and heater, all connected by cords to an electrical outlet. Bryant looks smug as he speaks. Beautiful, isn't it? Did you enjoy it? It's nice, but that's not the issue right now. But you enjoyed looking at this, so we're good, right? Wait, what do you mean, we're good? Brian says something incomprehensible. Look, I'm using electricity from your home, but you got to enjoy this display, so let's call it even for admission, okay? Excuse me? What are you talking about? It evens out. The electricity bill and the viewing fee cancel each other. No way, that doesn't make any sense. You get to enjoy these amazing tropical fish for free. I should be the one charging you. He says something outrageous. That apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I found myself oddly agreeing. I've been billed nearly $1,000 for electricity. We would never use this much. Where do you find such an expensive aquarium anyway? It's not a fair trade, and, by the way, stealing electricity is a criminal act. Bryant flashes an insincere grin. There's no issue, right? You got something worth the cost. Okay, we're done here. I get so frustrated by his nonsensical argument. Alright, I'm unplugging the cord now. Clean up and leave. And don't ever use someone else's electricity without permission. I won't let you do that. I've given you something worthwhile, and I can do it again. That's my line. There's no way I'm letting you use my electricity. I'm the one paying for it, you know. That's when Nikki steps in. Stop complaining. My husband is a neighborhood chairman. Keep this up, and you won't be able to live here. As expected, she used her power to threaten me. I expected her to pull rank. That's totally unreasonable. Enough, you're making a fuss over a little electricity. A little? It's nearly $1,000 a month. Nikki snorts. That's not my problem. Can you leave? You're being a bother. Frustrated, I decide I can't win this one and reluctantly leave. This is hopeless. I go home and report to Alec, who had returned. What's wrong with that woman? Well, she's worse than we imagined. So, what do we do? Alec puts his hand on his chin, thinking, I have an idea. What? How about we take a vacation? What are you talking about? Are you crazy? At a time like this? Hoping he had some sort of plan, I couldn't help but shout at Alec's misplaced words. Alec grins mischievously. Don't you think you're getting a little too worked up, Lily? Let's take a break for a day. I think Elsie would love it too. What are you even thinking about? Come on, don't say that. I'll take care of booking the hotel. Also, could you empty out the fridge? I became more and more confused about what Alec was thinking. Wait, are we gonna be stuck eating frozen meals for a while? That's fine. What are you even thinking? I'm just planning the trip. Alec's answer only made my heart hurt. So, we decided to take a weekend trip at the end of the month. Before leaving, Alec switched off all the breakers, disabling all the electricity in the house except for the security cameras, which run on batteries. Alright, we're all set. Let's go. Sure, whatever. I don't even know anymore. We got into the car, put Elsie in her car seat, and I took a seat in the back. At this point, I decided to just forget everything and enjoy the trip. Off we go. Okay. Elsie seemed excited about the long overdue trip, which lifted my spirits a bit. We did some sightseeing, had lunch, and finally arrived at the hotel in the evening. I don't get it, but once we're here, there's no point in worrying anymore. I decided to put aside the issues with the farmer family and enjoy our meal. I even had a little drink, tagging along with Alec. The three of us slept together on the king-size bed in our room. It did help relieve some of the recent stress. But I couldn't shake my concern. Did Alec just bring me on this trip to cheer me up? Is that all there is to it? As our fun trip came to an end, and we neared home, my spirits started to sink again. When we arrived home and stepped out of the car, the air around the house seemed to smell like something had burned. The next day, a neighbor filled me in while I was handing out souvenirs. "Hey, does it smell like something burned around here?" "Yeah, the farmer family's house had a fire the night before last. Seems their annex burned down." "Really?" Finally, I understood what Alec had been planning. It was crazy. Fire trucks everywhere, a real spectacle. "That annex is close to our house. That was a close call." "Yeah, if the fire had spread, your house would have been in danger too. But guess what? There were a lot of fish tanks in the room that caught fire. When they toppled over, the water spilled out and put out most of the fire." "That's a relief." I recalled that beautiful setup. Indeed, with all that water from the tanks, it should be enough to douse a fire, I thought, finding odd comfort in that act. But it seems like all of their tropical fish didn't make it. Apparently, some of them were quite expensive. To be honest, I've never really liked the farmer family, so between you and me, it feels like they got what they deserved. But keep it a secret, okay? After gathering some information, I go home to update Alec. "Hey, it turns out it really was the farmer family who started the fire. Everything went according to the plan here too. All is good." Alec, who was reviewing the security camera footage, shows me a small monitor. There, I clearly see Mr. Bryant trespassing into our property. He seems a bit clueless, checking a power outlet and repeatedly plugging and unplugging something. We should take this footage to the police tomorrow. We've got all the evidence we need, so this will settle it. Absolutely, I can finally breathe easy. I found myself smiling for the first time in a while. The next day, we go to the police and submit our evidence, including the camera footage and the recorded conversations. The police respond immediately, and Mr. Bryant is soon arrested. According to the police, it seems that when our power was cut, he tried to ensure power for his tropical fish tank from his own home. However, he caused a fire by not thinking and overloading an outlet. The fire was almost catastrophic, but was put out by the water from the collapsing fish tank. Later, firefighters extinguished the flames, but all the fish tanks were destroyed and the tropical fish perished. We hired a lawyer and successfully recovered the additional electricity costs and emotional distress caused by the threats from Mr. Bryant. This incident revealed the past wrongdoings of Mrs. Nicky, who had been hiding behind her husband's power. Both Mrs. Nicky and her husband were removed from their community positions. The news of the fire and Mr. Bryant's electricity theft spread, causing the farmer family to lose their standing in the community. Their house is big, so it's not something they can easily dispose of and move. It seems they have no choice but to continue living there quietly to escape from their bad reputation and public scrutiny. As for Mr. Bryant, he was released on probation. He has since quit his job and seems to have become a recluse. For me, all the disputes have been resolved and my electricity bill is back to normal. I'm spending my days looking forward to Elsie starting elementary school next year. Even my friend, who was also troubled by the farmer family, said, "Life has been easier since the farmer family calmed down. Oh, but keep it a secret, okay?" May this town continue to be a comfortable place to live.